Yes. Hi everyone, my name is Amin Yazdani and I want to talk about DevOps for startups. Before I start, I wanted to clarify what I mean by DevOps in this talk. I don't mean a DevOps team or a DevOps role in a company. Instead, I mean DevOps as a culture or as a mindset that can be part of an organization. So just to clarify it, because it has a big difference. If you want to talk about that, come talk to me after my notes. Yes. So DevOps was created for traditional software companies. Traditional software company is usually have, in my mind, 20 or more engineering teams. Usually they have 3 different teams inside their engineering: devs, ops, and QA. Devs are in charge of features, ops are in charge of running those features, making sure everything is running smoothly, and QA is in charge of making sure that there are no bugs in the code that is running for the customers. Now the problem is these 3 groups are not aligned because they have different goals, and those different goals means that they are measured based on different KPIs inside their companies. And that causes problem of alignment, which DevOps solves. Now, if you look at startups, it's a little bit different. Startups, they have a smaller development team, and usually every developer is in charge of testing their own code, which is equivalent of not having any QA team. And one of the developers in that team is usually in charge of deployment. And by the way, when I say small team, I mean 10 or less in whole engineering, QA, dev, and ops, and customers are their monitoring system. Now, when you talk to these startups, they will tell you that, oh, we're too small for automation, we're too small for DevOps, this is not, we're not ready for it. And that's because alignment, which is the problem that DevOps solves for bigger company, is not a problem for startups. They don't have the same problem, but we are selling this mindset to them with that problem in mind. But when it comes to startups, DevOps is a tool that is solving another problem for them, and that is a scale problem. What I mean by scale in this case is being able to scale 3 main things inside a startup when you want to go from a small team to grow your team and grow your product. So those 3 things: scaling teams, scaling your operations, and scaling your products. And if you don't have DevOps mindset and culture inside your startups, you start to see the same problems when you start to scaling. So when you start scaling your team, you're going to see the same problems of alignment between your different teams. The same problem going to show up for you. So that's why it's important to have that culture when you're small. When you start to scaling your operations, because your deployments are one-off and completely not automated, you're going to have problem with scaling that in having multiple different services, because it's very tricky to do so. And when it comes to scaling your product, which I mean by adding new features, adding more, expanding your product, you're going to have problem because your testing is not automated. So you have to spend a lot of time manually testing your product. But DevOps can solve these scaling problems, because if you have this DevOps as a mindset inside your company from the early on when you're working, then you're not going to have these 3 main issues that I mentioned here. So when you're talking to smaller companies about DevOps, it's important to put it in context. Startups, they have different issues when it comes to their when it comes to being successful, and they don't have the same problem as the bigger companies, but DevOps can solve the scale problem for startups, which is very important for their success. So next time that everything was good. Okay, next time that you talk to a CEO or CTO of a startup and you hear things like, we don't need DevOps yet, or we don't have time to invest in DevOps, or we are too small to use DevOps principles, I have one thing for you to tell them, and that is that they don't have the luxury not to do DevOps. And this is bigger than I expected. And with that, that was my quick talk. Thank you very much. You can email me, that's my Twitter, LinkedIn. Thank you.